Hello everyone, Joe here. After making the best PC RPG games of all time, I feel like it's kinda unfair if I'm not making the same videos for the other platform. How about we start with the best PS4 RPG games of all time? This video also serves as a revise of the older PS4 RPG video in this channel. Alright then, let's get started.
Now die!
Hercules!
After so many years, Kingdom Hearts 3 needed to be a strong send-off for the series, and for the most part, it is. The gameplay is still top tier and the worlds are gorgeous. It's just a shame that the plot stumbles over itself so many times. However, combat is where Kingdom Hearts has always shined for me. Watching Sora become increasingly more acrobatic as the game progresses is always satisfying. The biggest issue that I have with Kingdom Hearts 3 is that extensive knowledge of every story in the franchise is required. But nevertheless, it is still a must game to play for any Kingdom Hearts fans. Final Fantasy XV feels like nearly everything that people could want from a modern Final Fantasy. Full real-time combat is the single biggest departure from the turn-based systems of the past, and while it doesn't feel like the other mainline Final Fantasy games in any regard, the way it makes you and your compatriots look like a cohesive fighting unit kept it mostly enjoyable for everyone. While the storytelling is not the strong aspect of this game, the fresh combat system and massive amount of content spread across the world makes it an experience that Final Fantasy fans don't want to miss.
Pretty sure we're doomed.
It's nice knowing you guys.
Ys 9 is the latest entry in the long-running Ys franchise. With a legacy spanning more than 30 years, the Ys series has earned its place among JRPG and video game history. As for the gameplay, it is a JRPG with real-time action battle sequences. Sticking true to its real-time formula, Monstrum Nox battle system is the definition of easy to learn but hard to master. Aside from combat, there are a variety of side activities available, including cooking, crafting, and finding various collectibles for rewards. Overall, Ys 9 Monstrum Nox is both a solid addition to the Ys franchise as well as a good starting point for newcomers. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen was one of the standout action role-playing games of the last generation. The combat in this game is unique and feels satisfying. A wide selection of playable character classes offers up a bunch of different playstyles. Tweaking and exploring your options proves to be a really enjoyable process, mostly because each class feels so fleshed out when you are taking them for a spin on the battlefield. The land of Grancis may lack the details and the visual prowess of today's open worlds, but it's still an absolute joy to explore. Newcomers should definitely give this game a try. Scarlet Nexus is a game with a very strong anime influence. The story is similarly enjoyable with a decent-sized cast of characters and interesting narrative. As for combat, it's more or less reminiscent of a character action RPG game such as Tales of series. Note that Scarlet Nexus is very much a narrative-focused game. It's not about spending hours on fighting or doing repetitive quests. In here, the plot drives everything. This is a highly entertaining example of how narrative and action can do a good job of bolstering one another.
Was that the last of them?
It's hard to separate talking about Mortal Shell from discussing the Soulsborne games and Sekiro, because developer called Symmetry has obviously created a love letter to Miyazaki's work. Mortal Shell is a small-scale Souls-like game, demanding less of an investment of time and frustration. It also adds new ideas and mechanics that shift your way of thinking about its duelist-style combat. It feels tuned for more casual players, so no need to be worried about stressing out. Despite its various issues, Trails of Cold Steel 4 is a very good RPG with memorable characters, fun battles, a compelling story, and tons of great side content to engage with. Combat system remains fun with changes and the expanded roster adding even more nuance. Those who know nothing about the series are encouraged to start with the first game to get the maximum amount of enjoyment out of the story. Trails of Cold Steel 4 is an excellent sequel overall and a fitting way to end the saga.
I'm up!
This epic scale action role-playing game shines as a grand adventure through a magnificent and beautiful open world. There's a staggering amount of equipment to find, upgrade, and engrave with powerful perks. Odyssey combat mechanic is set to a free-flowing dance of light and heavy attacks. Side missions and main story are enjoyable. It fills with emotion that make you feel for those involved. Odyssey definitely sets a new bar for Assassin's Creed games in the future. With the Outer Worlds, Obsidian has found its own path in the space between Bethesda and BioWare, and it's a great one. It's not as explorable as one big open world, but it still packs in a large portion of flexible quests and conflicts within its series of smaller ones. The first-person only combat is definitely more on the Fallout side of the spectrum, but it distinguishes itself with a faster pace and more emphasis on precision aim. The combat, character, and companion system have enough new spins on existing ideas to make it feel like a game with its own personality rather than a copy. Hades is a fantastic game and really worth all the acclaim and praise it's received thus far. Most people tend to get frustrated with roguelike games, but Hades is somehow different though. The game's amazing ability to both engage and challenge you without making you sick of its learning curves is worthy of applaud. Hades has all the ingredients of an indie masterpiece. Challenging and exciting gameplay, lightning-fast combat with responsive controls, excellent plot, beautiful art style, and of course, a killer soundtrack. It's weird to say that Fallout 4 operates under the principle that less is more, since its vision of Boston is filled with so many content. But Bethesda more or less leaves the revolution to the Commonwealth residents and the literal fine-tuning to the players, and doesn't do much more than upgrade the graphics, declutter the skill tree, and throw in the ability to wear power armor. But hey, if traveling through Bethesda's version of Boston for 60 hours has taught me anything, it's that the little things are what matter. The improvements in the Legendary Edition are mostly graphical. The 4K textures are almost as sharp as a modern game. Outside of that, all of the DLC is now integrated into the campaign in a way that's much smoother. The Legendary Edition updates this amazing sci-fi RPG trilogy enough that a modern audience can play through it and enjoy its amazing story and characters without being asked to suffer much for the privilege. Combat and driving sections are still lackluster, but a universe this dense with rich lore and decisions is a pleasure to come back to and to welcome newcomers into.
Rip right through his shields. We're out of chance.
Dark Souls 3 instead feels like a love letter to both its predecessors and its fans. How you come at combat and what type of character you build is still a very personal choice, but nonetheless, you will still be challenged by everything that awaits you in Lothric. While Dark Souls 1 is a masterpiece, when taken as a whole, complete experience, Dark Souls 3 may be the best chapter of the Souls series that From Software has ever crafted. A fitting way to end if that will indeed be the fate of the franchise. Horizon's premise is a big mystery that begs to be solved. Although Horizon suffers from a few corny dialogue, the overall ideas are remarkably ambitious. There is much more flexibility to be found once you're out in the big open world. Horizon's combat is its most compelling feature thanks to the variety found within 26 distinct species of animal-like machines that roam across the world. On top of that, Horizon's post-apocalyptic landscape itself is beautiful and terrifying, so the journey is actually a reward of its own. Though side questing could have been more unique, its missions are compelling thanks to a central mystery that let you journey to a genuinely surprising and moving conclusion. If you have never played a Dragon Quest game before, this is the best introduction to the series you could ask for. If you're a Dragon Quest fan and haven't played yet, then you need to get on this. This game made you reapproach how to view not just past Dragon Quest games but every RPG games out there. Dragon Quest XI is a near unrivaled masterpiece that everyone wished could erase their memory of and re-experience it for the first time. Going back and playing older Dragon Quest games has only increased your appreciation for it. This definitive edition is a great send-off as we await the anticipated release of Dragon Quest XII.
You really think we're here to
Playing a game of this size and scale requires a commitment. The selling point of Tales series has always been that you hand over your precious time in exchange for knowing exactly what you're gonna get. Tales of Arise doesn't fully follow that example. Some of the changes from the combat to the streamlined systems are absolutely welcome, and there is no shortage of the meat that defines a Tales game. Character-driven bonds that are genuinely complex and meaningful, sweeping proclamations about the unassailable power of love and friendship. The Nioh series is a prime example of the Souls-like genre. This is an action RPG that handles like Dark Souls in having a stamina system and emphasize attacks into deliberate decisions, limited heals between checkpoints, difficult bosses, and the expectation that you will die a lot. Most of the gameplay has remained unchanged from the original, but it's not without significant changes. Right off the bat, there is more weapon types even without the DLC weapons, and each of them have their own skill points. There's plenty of other little changes, but in general, they all make it easier to try a variety of options early on. Overall, Nioh 2 is a refinement of an already great game. Monster Hunter World is a third-person action game about dominating the food chain and looking good doing it. All monsters have distinct personalities brought to life through realistic animations, observable behaviors, and detailed models. Knowing your environment, where the monster might be headed, and the fastest way to get there only comes with experience. Every challenge is a natural extension of the combat system. Grinding out the best gear for a tough hunt is a smart, often necessary idea, but if you know when to swing and when to run, you'll be alright. Monster Hunter World's thrilling fights with fantastic beasts never get old, even if they require tiresome item management during downtime.
There should be another facility
The
across that
post-apocalyptic world of Nier Automata thrives on its mysteries. Its premise of a never-ending war is initially straightforward. Combat evolves beyond mindlessly mashing on quick and strong attacks thanks to the variety of blade weapon styles. On the other hand, the unorthodox approach to game design is best exemplified by Automata's multiple endings. If you know anything about the game's director, Yoko Taro, then you know to expect the unexpected. Your forward progress isn't propelled by the mere compulsion to achieve 100% completion. You are simply pulled by curiosity to learn more about what happened to Earth and humanity. The expectations around Final Fantasy VII Remake are sky high, and it mostly manages to deliver. Final Fantasy VII Remake is actually only the first part of the entire series. It only covers the events that take place in the city of Midgar, where Cloud Strife and his freedom-fighting allies battle the evil Shinra Corporation. It's an odd decision that results in some structural problems, but also gives the city and its heroes more time to become fleshed out as interesting characters. The other aspect that shines through the entire game is also the combat. The way that the iconic system has been transformed into real-time brawling is exceptional, and though you only directly control one character at a time, you will constantly be giving orders to and swapping between your party members. With top-notch combat, entertaining level design, and seeing the story flesh out with real emotional arcs, this remake will definitely fill everyone with pure joy. Playing Bloodborne make you wish other game designers would just take half of this game's design into consideration. You will find core ideas of gaming here that sometimes other games don't even seem to know about. Smart, beautiful, incredibly rich in detail and creativity, these guys take video games to a new level. Stories are plenty and deep in this game. The new weapon system is awesome. Also, the regain mechanic makes the gameplay aggressive and fast. Exploration is the key in this game, so make sure you're checking every corner or you will miss a lot of things. The Divinity series has been around for a long time, but this game doesn't require you to have prior knowledge, with the story taking place 1200 years after original sin. All the best RPGs have complex and detailed character creation options, and Original Sin 2 is no exception. The usual character races and classes are available with no restrictions. While the series combat is heavily inspired by the likes of Baldur's Gate, the environmental and status effects add a new dimension of strategy to confrontations. Divinity Original Sin 2 is certainly one of the finest RPG experience on the current generation of consoles.
The Empire wants.
To celebrate its 5-year anniversary, Bethesda has released an updated package for Skyrim. It is basically a better version of the original game that includes DLC and mod support for consoles. It doesn't fundamentally change the game, but it doesn't really need to. Instead, it brings it up to speed with the modern expectations, leveraging new hardware to get the most out of the experience, and as you might suspect, it's a winner. Time to find an excuse to back into Skyrim and become consumed by its sense of wonder and enchanting sub-stories. The Witcher 3 is a masterpiece. It is one of the best open-world RPGs out there. The game is full of life. It rewards exploration while maintaining a strong core story. Combat mechanic is quite simple. You will need to attack in fast-paced, real-time scenarios. Though mastering how to use it efficiently against all different types of enemies is another story. There are also a variety of magical spells and additional items for tactical combat. The slow progression of the story and wide open world can make players a little bit off at first, but if you manage to handle that side of the game, then you will be rewarded with the best RPG experience of all time.
I'm willing to listen.
Persona 5 Royal is a living masterclass in how to take an already amazing game and boost it up to the next level. The excellent story and characters along with the challenging tactical combat are all refined and back for another round with new surprises. There are new areas to explore and new twists to leave your jaw on the floor. Very little has been left untouched, and just about everything that has been touched is better off for it. Persona 5 on its own was already a masterpiece game, but Atlus somehow manages to turn a masterpiece game into a perfection. Alright boys, I think that's it for today. I know some of you have a different opinion than mine, and that's okay. Maybe you can show your own version of best PS4 RPG games in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video if you like it. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Peace.